like, well, people nowadays in the 21st century, well, and 20th century as well, the previous century, well, it seems more or less like, well, the more we have, the more happy we become. But the thing is, well, we are not really interested in the politics or the power relationships as long as, well, our bellies are full. I mean, if we eat enough, if we have enough entertainment around, we really do not care about the rest of the world. We don't care what's happening in Africa, what's happening in Somalia, what's happening in Malaysia, what's happening in Syria, and so on and so forth. This could be one of the political sides of this Hunger Games, because, well, as you see, in Hunger Games, children could be the reflections of the vulnerable people, fragile people like Syrians today, like, you know, people in Africa, while they are starving to death. But we are just like the, you know, as if we were watching the a kind of a TV series or a kind of a documentary. Oh, very interesting, he's going to die soon. Let me eat my popcorn or something like that. So, well, it is a kind of a metaphorical, you know, reflection here, because it seems as long as we have a shelter and we are not hungry and we have not, you know, any problem to solve for tomorrow, how to feed myself or my children or my family, it seems all right with us. So it's a kind of, I guess, a very clear criticize over the new century and humanity, and we should accept that we are actually responsible for these things. Well, this would be a very interesting, maybe, or a second, you know, kind of a clue for us on page 379. Well, then Plutarch has a good laugh. It never seems to bother him when no one else appreciates his jokes. Are you preparing for another war, Plutarch? I ask. This happens after Katniss kills President Coin, because she understands that President Coin used her sister. This is what, of course, President Snow reveals. President Coin used her sister. She sent her deliberately as a medic to the battlefield, and she used one of the hovercrafts with the flag of the capital, or the sign, the symbol or the sign with the capital, and it drops some silver parachutes, which children thought they were supplies, but later on it turned out to be the bombs. And both Katniss wounded severely, and of course she saw how her sister Prim turned into a human torch. And this is something unbearable, of course, and she would definitely, or she would rather die thousands of times than watching her sister dying at the battlefield, burning. Anyway, are you preparing for another war, Plutarch, I ask? Or not now? Now we are in that sweet period where everyone agrees that our recent horrors should never be repeated, he says. But collective thinking is usually short-lived. We are fickle, stupid beings with poor memories and a great gift for self-destruction. Although, who knows, maybe this will be it, Katniss. So, this is very interesting, because, well, as we see, as human beings, we always try to conquest each other, and we always try to kill each other, and this causes new problems, new wars. And throughout the human history, by starting Abel and Cain, when the first bloodshed occurred in this world, well, this is, if this is the Hunger Games, then it's a metaphorical meaning for our hunger to kill each other. And we never satisfy ourselves. And one of the very influential books by Barbara Tuchman, The Guns of the August. Well, I remember a very interesting line. Just let me find it very quickly, if I can. Evet. Yes. On page 13, we see a very interesting line. As a 21-year-old cavalry officer in 1870, Bernhardi had been the first German to ride through the Arc de Triomphe when the Germans entered Paris. Since then, flags and glory interested him less than the theory, philosophy, and science of war as applied to Germany's historic mission. Another of his chapter titles, he had served as chief of the military history section of the General Staff, was one of the intellectual elite of that hard-thinking, hard-working body, and author of a classic on cavalry before he assembled a lifetime's studies of Clausewitz, Triche, and Darwin, and poured them into the book that was to make his name a synonym for Mars. Mars, as you know, the Greek god of war. Ares, in other words. War, he stated, is a biological necessity. It is the carrying out among humankind of the natural law upon which all the laws of nature rest, the law of the struggle for existence. And other lines, but then at the end he says conquest thus becomes a law of necessity. And well, he's talking about France, but he says she must be annihilated once and for all as a great power, and so on and so forth, which would eventually be the idea of Germany just prior to the First World War. But there we understand through Bernhardi's words that well, in Hunger Games the same mentality goes around. So after a war, think about the First World War. Well, think about the First World War authors like, you know, Rudyard Kipling, Sigurd Sassoon, William Butler Yeats, and what else? T.S. Eliot and Auden, or you name it. Well, all these authors knew that something was going to happen. And the war has not given us or hasn't made us the victors nor the losers. And the First World War, Second World War, and if in future there comes the Third World War, well, that would be the possibly the end of humanity. And such a world, like in the Mad Max or Terminator or Matrix series, or well, in Hunger Games, whatever you name it, I mean, there are lots of possibilities. Might eventually be the reality of our lives. And the thing is, we are always hunger for bloodshed. And in that sense, after a war, well, we think about the atrocities of the war. We think about the people who died for us. But well, eventually, well, these things will be appreciated. These people will be called as martyrs, and we will say, well, let God, you know, accept them to his, you know, splendid castle or splendid citadel, and let them, you know, rest in peace, and so on and so forth. And the second day we totally forget about them and we continue our lives like the sentences actually tell us. All we care about the next day, well, how can I, you know, enjoy myself? Should I buy this new 65-inch television? And how about a new BMW? And so on and so forth. So well, this shows that our concentration is merely focused on the daily basis lives, based lives. And as a matter of fact, well, Hunger Games is also a metaphorical, you know, situation of the world today. And when we see that, well, people are killing each other, like, as I said, the Syrians, Iraqi people, or Malaysian, or in Vietnam, even in, you know, in Africa, especially in Africa, well, people are suffering, people are dying, and we don't do much. And this is the real Hunger Games. And while we are, you know, eating our hamburgers and drinking our beverages, well, we are just watching, and well, we say, well, what a pity situation. Well, this is a reminder, well, that this, like in the Hunger Games, whatever happened to Capitol, that situation might backfire to us, to humanity. So if we don't do anything right now, well, who knows, in future, in a very near future, we might also be in the same situation. So, well, of course, well, I mean, Hunger Games, highly complex and definitely ingenious work needs to be comprehended in a more extended way. But I was trying to just create a kind of a brief, picture of these novels. And if you really want to know something about this, you should really go and read yourself to find something more, because whatever has been read, whatever has been interpreted cannot be reinterpreted unless you read them by yourself. Thank you very much for watching our video, and I hope, well, you find it helpful. And well, definitely we will come back with more videos, and we are always open for your suggestions for further interviews. Thank you.